Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we are testing golf balls, specifically the 2020 AVX from Titleist versus the all-new 2022. Now, this is our standard test for a golf ball. We're going to do a couple wedges, and then we're going to go into our driver. Because the big thing about the AVX is how it changes ball flight. It is more of a niche golf ball in the Titleist lineup. It is a lower spin golf ball, but it's also lower compression. So today we're going to start with wedges, and we got Ian.
This will be a good one, RB. I enjoy hitting the AVX golf ball. I enjoy how it feels. It's generally a lower spin ball, which hasn't been great for me in the past because of some swing flaws I've had. But as I've kind of worked on some things and I do spin the ball quite a bit more, I'm curious as to how this ball comes out. You did touch on it there. It is a lower compression golf ball, which generally doesn't lend itself to the fastest ball speeds. But it will be very interesting to see how much the trade-off on the spin versus the speed, if they do cancel each other out a little bit, if we end up with basically just a preference, a choice on feel and, apex. Because the one thing with this golf ball, it does fly at a slightly flatter apex.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that we talked to Jeremy Stone from Titleist when we had him on the podcast, the Build Shot podcast. You can check it out. We'll put the link in the bio. But what happens is that it's all about levers, right? It's like club design. So for them, they wanted to, with the newer version, they wanted to add a little bit of spin and a little bit more feel into the short game without sacrificing distance. So that involved tweaking both the core as well as the cover. And I think that is really the fascinating thing about when it comes to the evolution of any type of golf ball model.
Yep.
We've seen it with the Pro V1, we've seen it with the Pro V1X. They do these little tweaks for ball flight and to fit different niches, like Left Dash, for example. That was a ball that was essentially a tour-only product for a long period of time, offered it to a niche part of the market. And the AVX, I know when it originally came out, as people have started to see on the channel, I tend to hit the golf ball a little bit high. And for me, I remember being out and testing it. I was like, this is a noticeable difference in the apex of the flight. Like other golfers, I would have loved a little bit more short game spin, but I kind of just adjusted my game for that because of the benefit that it offered the rest of my game. So with this one, they're bringing that little bit more spin, hopefully, to the short game. Definitely a softer feel on the short shots, which I'm excited to test. And then we'll have you hit some drivers just to compare for speed as well.
Decent for distance, a little open in the face. I know what my yardage I'm leaving myself this year is in the golf course, RB. I like a 50-yard shot.
Now, we put this exact yardage to the test, same golf club, with a different golf ball in a video recently, and we were seeing spin probably about 10% higher, right?
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my baseline on 50-yard shot is about 8,000. What are we seeing so far?
So 68, we're in the high.
Okay.
We're close. We're getting close to 7,000.
Yeah.
But again, this is a good example of you have to understand and really work on what your own preference is for your short game. If you like to be able to play more so of a little bit of a running out shot, or if you're someone that struggles with extremely high spin in your short game and you have a course where you're hitting shots into greens and they're really ripping back, this is an opportunity to say, I can use a different golf ball that's going to fit my game and my course without having to really make any other adjustments to your equipment.
I will say, RB, hitting these shots with this club is a pleasure. Hitting it with a soft golf ball, there's such an enjoyable experience. I always hate a click on the golf ball when I'm hitting these wedge shots. It just never feels good. But these feel fantastic. So rolled out, not too bad. I thought I hit it too soft. That's good.
Perception is everything, and I know we're inside and we're hitting short shots and we're in a pretty close proximity to each other. This is not the softest sounding golf ball. It's soft, but it doesn't have the extremely muted sound that we'd find in something like a Pro V1. I think that's something to take notice as well, is there is going to be a difference between the two, but there's still a feel difference when you move into the Pro V1 line, because that's by design.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's other much lower compression golf balls in the market. I mean, we've tested the Wilson Duos at 29 compression and all these kind of crazy ones that literally feel like marshmallows. And yeah, does that feel it feels okay when you hit the wedge, but you kind of still subconsciously know when you compress it with a driver, like it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
You know, it really isn't. Okay, RB, any differences to the construction of the new ball? What did Jeremy say? Anything in the dimple pattern? Where's this new spin coming from?
So they've changed the cover. They made it a little bit softer, but
Right.
because, as I mentioned earlier, pulling levers when it comes to design,
Yeah.
softer cover, more gradient core. So to explain a gradient core is like explaining a loaf of bread or a muffin. It's kind of the analogy that I like to use, in that when you bake it, the inside stays a little softer and the outside gets crustier, gets harder. So more gradient core, softer in the middle, firmer on the outside.
Yeah.
Casing layer, soft cover.
Which allows the softness of the cover to pull against the friction placed by the club to create the spin.
Yeah, so we get no loss in distance, which
Yep.
is obviously something they never want to give up.
Yeah.
So they realize that if you want to change that spin characteristic, you want to change that cover characteristic, something else has to give inside of the golf ball, and for that it was the core and just changing the gradient of it. And for those asking about like how a cover and a core react, basically the faster the swing speed, the more and the less loft on a golf club, the more you're engaging the inner parts of the golf ball. So when you are on those shorter shots and you're dealing with something that's higher lofted, you're really just engaging the cover, and that's where a lot of the spin comes from. But then as you move into the longer clubs, that's where you start to engage the core, the casing layer, you start to get more compression of the golf ball itself. And then the last part of that is the aerodynamics. So as it picks up speed off those lower lofted clubs like a driver, that's where the dimple pattern has a huge play in how the golf ball is going to flight.
It's just a totally different experience hitting it, I'll be honest. Like, it feels entirely different. Titleist will lead and the rest will follow. You know, that's the way it's always been. Wherever they've went with their golf ball, you know, the tour has adopted their golf ball as the golf ball of choice for the most part. And there's amazing golf balls in the market right now. You know, I can't wait to test Callaway. You know, we've tested TaylorMade a ton. But, you know, there's no doubt about it, Titleist are driving, you know, a lot of the conversation when it comes to the different things that happen with the golf balls, because they just have so much market share.
Yeah, and that's where like the segmentation of the line plays a big part in fitting.
Yeah.
Really, right? Like you've got your Pro V1 and Pro V1X. You have the left dash. You've got AVX.
Yep.
And there's something in that line for everybody.
Absolutely for everyone.
That was a good one there. All right, so first round, 50-yarder. And actually, the one interesting thing when we look at the dispersion here is from the older golf ball to the newer one, front to back is actually a little bit smaller with the new one. And I think it's because there's a little more spin. So you don't get that additional rollout, which is exactly kind of what Titleist was targeting by changing the cover.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool to see. I mean, it's marginally quicker, but the separation, I mean, it's minimal. And sometimes with these tests, there's such fine margins, like we're talking 3 yards versus 2, right? So it is 33%, but, you know, that's why it looks big on the right-hand chart. But I think the 500 RPM or just under that, you know, of spin is interesting. The lower launch is interesting. We are getting more friction, no doubt about it, which is, I think, a more appealing thing with this golf ball. If people can get a little bit more of that green side spin, you know, then when we start looking at minimizing apex or flattening, you know, the people who do kind of spin it up a little bit, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it is very much a targeted golf ball, and I think for golfers who are looking for that, but still don't want to give up all of the spin by going to like a quote-unquote distance ball.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for someone to see that advantage in downrange flight, but not give up on the short game as much as you would with something that was not a premium urethane ball.
For sure. Okay, let's hit some slightly longer shots.
Okay, so moving into the next shot, which would be like your first kind of full swing club, and that's your gap wedge.
Yep.
We're looking at 120 yards.
Yeah, 120 is a nice comfortable number for me, and I think we could have done pitch and wedge, but I'm interested. You know, we done recently the pitch and wedge specialist versus, you know, set. I still want to know what it does with a full swing, with the specialist wedge, with obviously the kind of groove technology, with the milling, all that sort of stuff. I'm curious in that 120 is a yardage that's really important to me, so I'd really like to see how these two balls perform. Yeah, I mean, I will say in the past, we've not seen, anytime there's a golf ball change, we tend to see little movements in change rather than massive monumental changes in performance. So 5 or 450 RPMs in the 50-yarder was more than I expected to see.
It's substantial when you think about that percentage jump.
Yeah.
Taking that to the golf course, because I mean, RPM, that's how many times it spins in a minute.
Yeah.
The golf ball's not in the air for a minute. So as much as you can get in that, 6 seconds or 5, even less than 5 seconds that it's in the air.
A few more
seconds. Revolutions is going to get that golf ball to stop quicker. Almost on a number. I'm curious to see if the spin is going to change proportionately, like from a percentage standpoint, or are we going to see like a 500 to 600 RPM change, right? Great one there.
I wouldn't expect to see, I mean, we're talking about this being a low spin golf ball. I wouldn't expect to see more spin off a Pro V1X or, TP5 or anything like that. I mean, 10,500 is a lot of spin on a gap wedge.
Yeah.
Really is. Nice launch conditions. I really like what I'm seeing from, and this is the old ball.
This is the old one, yeah. That's what I'm really curious to see the separation, if there is one as you get to the full swing clubs. Just a little close to the line, Ian. Come on.
I like the numbers, RB. You're giving me good numbers today. You make a good caddy.
That sound, though, right off the bat, noticeably different.
There is definitely something very different about this new AVX. I tell you, when I hit them both, there's a very distinct difference. That's the best one.
Nicely done. We're not seeing a huge separation here, which we don't really expect.
Yeah.
But the one thing we are noticing, I said it on like the first shot you hit, like definitely sound softer.
Yeah, definitely. They feel different. There's no doubt about it. They do. They definitely feel different.
Yeah, just like a touch less.
Yeah. I hit that one. I couldn't have struck that one much better.
So on the old ball, we got just over 10,000 RPM, and the new one we're under 10,000, under 9,900, right? High 9,800s.
Let's hit some big sticks with it.
Let's do some drivers. All right. Good one there.
I mean, it's kind of like what we said. Generally speaking, a wedge is to spin a bit more. We want the driver to do that. Whether it's a Pro V1X, a Pro V1, an AVX, whatever, 12.5 launch, 2,200 spin, decent efficiency. Maybe that efficiency is maybe where the little point to be made there, because 14 degrees of delivered loft, hitting up and at 3.8. Spin loft is pretty low, so maybe we are losing a little bit on ball speed. Maybe that's a 161 with a firmer golf ball, which it probably is. So maybe something to look at there, but certainly the trade-off in terms of the 280 carry 307, nice and straight, good peak height. It's everything you'd want, really. Thank you, Tote. Help me. Nice consistent numbers on that again, though, RB. 11.5 launch, 2,200 on a completely different part of the head.
Yeah.
Really nice. It's exactly what you want. A little higher in the head, hit quite well, but...
Yeah, that's going to go. Bounding like a rabbit.
It was.
Really nice there.
Thank you.
So kind of, I mean, again, low spin performance from a golf ball. Efficiency was up at that time, but again, like we don't expect to see hugely different numbers off of a driver, I think is the big thing that we really want to stress. But let's try the new one and see how they stack up.
Let's do it.
It's hard to tell with a full swing, but I think it feels a little softer as well.
Joe, so my feedback on off the club is harder.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like and it's just like I said to you a second ago, like feels like it's jumping off the face. It feels firmer. I think the crusty loaf versus, your standard,
Wonder Bread.
Wonder Bread, yeah. It's a great way to think about this. It really is. Go to the baker, he's going to make you a nice crispy loaf on the outside. It's going to be lovely and soft on the inside versus your Wonder Bread.
That was great. Let's go in there.
Okay, RB, so, I mean, obviously with the wedges, we saw the little extra spin off the new AVX. Yeah. Really pleased to see that. It's kind of what we were hoping for, I guess. The full swing, a little bit different, 10,254 versus 9860. Ultimately the same distance, on the carry, but a little tighter spin window. Interesting again. And then obviously the driver. My feedback to you was the new one felt firmer, felt faster.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't notice a huge difference. I did perceive that the new one maybe seemed a little bit softer. Maybe it's because I'm back here. I haven't been in the Bay when you've been hitting a lot of drivers, to be honest. I think that's probably a big one, but noticeably different off the wedge, which I think in the short game is where people really perceive it as well, especially too, and we didn't test it, but I think off the putter as well, someone is going to find that it's going to be softer too.
Yeah, I just think it nudges AVX into a slightly more playable design. I feel like that the old one was very, very niche, like you said. It was if you had the right type of player, it was good. But I feel like a lot of people could play AVX now. If you like that slightly softer golf ball, if you kind of you always lean towards Pro V1 over Pro V1X because you like that feel. Well, I think you can have a conversation between AVX and Pro V1 now based on what we're seeing here. There's a nice amount of spin around the green.
When the original AVX came out, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I moved into it kind of around the springtime when it first launched. I didn't stick with it all year.
Yeah.
Now again, my speed was a little different at the time as well, but the big thing was as you got, for me personally, when the courses I played got drier, I needed that little bit of extra spin.
Right.
I can see now, it's not a huge amount, but adjusting my short game, getting all the advantages out of the ball flight, the lower ball flight, and then moving into something that's going to just spin a little bit more. So again, it's a niche golf ball, but I think there's definitely a market out there that this is going to serve. I think it's probably around that 100, maybe a little bit under 100 mile per hour driver swing speed player that wants to get distance but doesn't want to give anything up.
That's exactly who I see it for. Yeah, I mean, I think that's important for you guys to note. Who are we talking to here? Are we talking to me? Probably not talking to RB. I mean, maybe because you do have that high apex, but you maybe, as you said, you would have gravitated away because you like the extra greenside spin, which we'll go back and look for now. So yeah, I think maybe 90 up to 105, club head speed driver, that type of player, I would say encouraged to go and grab a sleeve. But if you hear us describe any ball flight characteristics that we have today, and it sounds like don't certainly be slow to give this a try. I think it's well worth trying. Yeah,
I think they did exactly what they wanted to do. They set out to make a golf ball perform like the original, but get a little bit more spin, a little bit softer feel. I think they nailed it.
Tip the cap to the boys at Titleist. They don't normally miss when it comes to to producing a golf ball that performs. So very, very impressed. Okay, more golf ball testing. We've got a few other boxes arrived, RB.
They're coming. They're on their way.
They're on their way. So lots more ball testing to be done. We'll see you again soon.